What's up, you guys? It's Steve here, and man, do we have a lot to cover regarding stimulus. There is a lot unfolding. This is your stimulus check update, stimulus package update, and breaking news update. Now, take a look at the headlines coming out, you guys. Stimulus check gas proposals, and what could happen with them next. They have had two major stimulus check or rebate bills that have been proposed in Congress. What are they going to be? What are the chances of them passing? Now, here on the channel, I've already let you guys know that there's actually four that have come out. Congress has taken them into consideration for a federal level gas stimulus check to go out. Now, we will see what unfolds. In my last video, I shared with you states that have already passed and approved checks to go out this month. If you missed that, check that one out right after this one. But take a look, you guys. We're hearing that gas stimulus checks on a federal level might be needed as, look at this news coming out yesterday, G7 leaders pledged to further economically isolate Russia, which means less oil coming from Russia to the UK and the US. This would mean that oil prices will go up, gas prices will go up, and as a result of increased gas prices, goods across the board that need to be transported will also go up in price. This is going to further the inflation pressure on our economy, which might mean that there's going to need to be some sort of relief as prices are going to continue to go up as things are escalating in Russia. And we're hearing it across the board. People are saying we need direct assistance, stimulus checks, child tax credits, some form of relief. Take a look at what's happening today, you guys. Childcare providers plan to shut down on May 9th today to demand federal help. They're shutting down in protest, requesting more federal stimulus provisions go out to the United States of America. Now, we're hearing from President Joe Biden that he is helping. He's working away trying to get legislation done. And take a look at this announcement that came out last week, you guys. Biden touted $1.5 trillion budget deficit reduction, saying, not only am I trying to get out stuff to help, I'm reducing the deficit. But I don't think anybody just kind of took that. Take a look, you guys, but he's not telling the whole story. This coming out from CNBC. And here's another one from CNN. Fact check deconstructing Biden's claim that I reduced the federal deficit. Now, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, you guys. This is a very interesting statement being made by the president, but I'm going to dive into the details, get you caught up on the latest. As I mentioned, talks are going on for more legislation, more phases of stimulus provisions to go out, and it's being demanded across the board. And I know there's a ton of people that are requesting more stimulus checks. So let's go ahead and dive into the latest. I'm going to share with you the articles and the video footage so you can see it for yourself. But also wanted to mention on the second channel, Steve Ram Finance, more content coming for those interested in growing wealth and personal finance. In addition to that, as I mentioned, if you missed my last video, you might want to check it out as I cover state stimulus checks going out in this month, the month of May. But you guys, let's dive into this information, get you caught up as to what's unfolding today with stimulus. And before we do, if you're going to do me a quick favor, just takes a second. If you appreciate the content, don't forget, smash that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Helps me out a ton. I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you want to stay up to date, totally free to do so. Come join the Ram fam. All you got to do is hit the subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you got any specific questions for me, I'm easy to get a hold of directly. Just go ahead and hop onto Instagram, shoot me a DM at SteveRam3. And with that being said, you guys, let's go ahead and dive right in. And let's start off with this video footage of what President Joe Biden had to say about the economy and him reducing the deficit.
This week, my administration released new information that contains that we're on track to cut the federal deficit by another $1.5 trillion by the end of this fiscal year. The biggest decline in a single year ever in American history. The biggest decline on top of us having a $350 billion drop in the deficit last year, my first year as president. We also learned that for the first time since 2016, the Treasury Department is planning to pay down the national debt issued to the public this quarter. And for all the talk the Republicans make about deficits, it didn't happen a single quarter under my predecessor. Not once. The bottom line is the deficit went up every year under my predecessor before the pandemic and during the pandemic. And it's gone down both years since I've been here. Period. They're the facts. And why is it important? Because bringing down the deficit is one way to ease inflationary pressures in an economy where a consequence of a war and gas prices and oil and food and it's a different world right this moment because of Ukraine and Russia. We reduced federal borrowing, and we helped combat inflation. This process is a great deal, is good news, but it didn't happen by itself. The previous administration increased the deficit every year it was in office, in part because of its reckless $2 trillion tax cut. Now, you're tired of hearing me saying but a $2 trillion tax cut that was not paid for, And a tax cut that largely benefited the biggest corporations, 55 of which earned $40 billion in profits and paid not a single penny in income tax in 2020, and wealthiest Americans, like the billionaires, who on average pay just 8% in federal taxes. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit, it undermined the watchdogs, the inspector generals, whose job it was to keep the pandemic relief funds from being wasted. Remember, at the time, I kept saying they're going to fire the inspector generals. Well, they fired the inspector general. And in my administration, those watchdogs are back. The Justice Department has a chief prosecutor for pandemic fraud who's going to go after the criminals who stole billions in relief money meant for small businesses and American families, but never got to them, got in the pockets of criminals.
So let me know your thoughts, and if you raised an eyebrow at the statement that I reduced the federal deficit or debt, well, you're not alone. I think everybody questioned that statement. Even CNN needed to fact check it. So take a look, you guys, deconstructing Biden's claim that I reduced the federal deficit. So we're going to be getting some clarity on what it was the president actually meant here. So it says a smaller deficit than before, but a bigger deficit than expected. So just to clarify, we did not reduce the federal debt. It did get added. We have more debt than before, but what they're saying is, what Joe Biden is saying, is that the amount that it went up was less than in 2020, President Donald Trump's last year in office. So he's saying that he added less debt than the last administration. As take a look, you guys, the roughly $2.8 trillion deficit in fiscal year 2021, during which Biden was in office for more than 8 months, was about $360 billion lower than the roughly $3.1 trillion deficit in 2020 when Trump had his last year in office. Now, a $360 billion decline is certainly substantial, but the CBO, however, has estimated that in the beginning of Biden's tenure in 2021 that the deficit would decline by $870 billion. So they're saying, yes, he did reduce it, but they were actually expecting him to do it even more so. He didn't even barely meet half of that. Now, the Biden administration did implement new policies, notably including a massive pandemic relief package, that American Rescue Plan. So what they're saying is that one of the main reasons why it's actually going down is, well, expiring pandemic spending has been the main factor. So it says that there are a number of factors to play, including economic rebounds, for which the White House, Goldstein, and others say Biden can fairly take some credit. But the main factor is that temporary pandemic relief spending has been ending, bringing federal spending down from extraordinarily high levels. So they're saying it was just up substantially high because of all the provisions, all the stimulus, all the spending. And since a lot of those provisions ended, that was the main reason that brought it down. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Now, the thing is, there's a lot of people that are requesting that we have more stimulus and spending, saying we still need assistance to get through the pandemic and get our economy back to some sort of stable form. But we also have inflation taking place, and we're hearing the president saying that he wants more spending, but he's going to be figuring out a way to have it paid for by taxing large corporations and billionaires. Now, we will see. Let me know your thoughts. But as I mentioned, today protests are going on. Take a look, you guys. Link in the description below. Childcare providers plan to shut down May 9th to demand federal help. Childcare providers across the country are planning to protest and shut down on Monday, today, in hopes of reminding federal and state lawmakers that they desperately need government assistance. Officials from Community Change, the progressive grassroots group, are leading the effort and told the Huffington Post that nearly 300 providers from 25 states have already signed up to be a part of what they call a Day Without Childcare, a national day of action. Now, in a conference call on Thursday, several of the participating providers talked about their plights as they try to stay in business at a time when they can't pay enough to attract and keep workers, and when they can't ask families to pay more because some parents are already struggling to pay for high childcare prices as it is. We can no longer afford to wait, said Britannia Bays, provider of West Texas, who will be closing her doors on Monday to help lead a march in Texas at the state capitol in Austin. Our families are out of options. It feels like we all know that childcare is essential, but it's time for the world to feel what it's like to go a day without childcare right now to prevent it from becoming a permanent reality. Now, we're hearing that demonstrations will continue at a time when prospects of enacting a major new federal initiative on childcare seem slim. President Joe Biden and Democratic leaders in Congress had hoped to enact one as a part of the Build Back Better legislation, which we're hearing is currently under negotiation. Senator Joe Manchin has opposed it. They're trying to get him back on board. But the legislation depends on near unanimous support from Democrats in Congress because Republicans who do not support it and a lone Democratic Senator, Joe Manchin of West Virginia, effectively killed the legislation back in December when he objected to its overall size and structure. But as I mentioned, right now, they're having talks to see if they can get him back on board. And we also have Republicans that are providing bills for child tax credits, gas stimulus checks. We have an assortment of different people trying to put provisions together. And we will see, and as you see here, there are people saying we need more stimulus provisions. So let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Do you think that President Joe Biden is going to get Democrats to unify, pass more legislation for child care provisions, stimulus checks, things to help with inflation and gas? Do you think it's going to fall apart? Will he step in and have to do executive orders and executive actions to provide additional provisions right before the midterm elections? Or do you think nothing is going to happen at all? It's all going to fall apart, and it's very likely in November, Republicans will come in and take control of Congress in the House and the Senate. Let me know your thoughts, you guys, but there is a lot on the line and there is a lot happening, and I will keep you up to date here on the channel. And as always, you guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me. If you made it this far and you haven't already, don't forget, smash the like button if you appreciate the updates, keeping you up to speed on everything going on. Also, leave your comments, share this out. If this is your first time here and you like to stay up to date, totally free, come join the Ram fam. All you got to do is smash that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell. If you got any specific questions for me, shoot them to me in the DM on Instagram at SteveRam3. Consider joining the second channel, Steve Ram Finance, to learn about growing wealth and personal finance. And with that being said, you guys, once again, thank you so much for joining me, and I will catch you in the next one. Take care. God bless. This is Steve.